is my pleasure, great pleasure, to introduce you to Professor Joanna Madalińska. She is from Warsaw, professor from Warsaw University, and she is the VP of the World Education Association, a VP Vice President, but she is also the chairwoman of Teacher Education Policy in Europe Network, which is a very, very high position in the education, and she is very influential. And I'm very honored that she agreed to join us today and to tell us about the COVID-19 in Poland and the lesson that were learned. And Joanna, please, the floor is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ori. Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to share my experience on distance education in Poland. And within this very short talk, because Uri and his team, they told me that I have around 15 minutes, I will try to present the situation regarding distance education in Poland, but mostly I focus on some lessons, some conclusions that we can draw from the situation we have now. As I said, I will focus on distance education and some conclusion that we can have from this. As you know, Poland is a part of European Union, and we joined European Union 2004, and we try to follow European Union policy directions. So everything what happened in European Union also, let me say to some extent, happens in Poland. And European Union tried to introduce some special measure in order to respond to COVID-19. And as you see, there were four priorities. First, limiting the spread of the virus, ensuring the provision of medical equipment, boosting research for treatment and vacancies, and supporting job, business, and the economy. And in Poland, in order to reduce the spread of the virus, like in European Union and the other countries in the world, what we have done, we try to work on social distance, on isolations. And on March 11, when the pandemic was announced in the world, our government decided that all educational institutions should be closed. And also, you know, the university was closed, the nurseries, kindergartens, hobby education, different centers regarding the system of education. And we saw that the government tried to work gradually on reopening the education. However, because of the situation, epidemic situation, it was impossible. And on May 24th, we decided to open the school, to reopen the schools, but there are some conditions. Firstly, the school is reopened only for the youngest children, 1 to 3 grades from primary school. And for the other children, government offers to have the consultation with the teachers. It means that if students have the real problem and would like to meet the teacher, there is the possibility to enter the school and have the meeting with the teacher. And especially these solutions goes to the students who are at the end of the school, I mean the primary school and secondary school, because also the government decided, even though it was a huge, let me say, the massive criticism in Poland, government decided that we will have the living exams at the end of primary and secondary school in order to have the continuation of education. And the government decided that during the exam we will have only written exam, not the oral exam. So it was this, let me say, solution. And also it was introduced with the special precautions. And regarding the distance education, as you know, whatever we would like to do in the education, in the system of education, we need to base our solution on the law. So distance education was not put in the law. In the law, we have like the requirement towards teachers that they should have good digital competences, but nothing was mentioned about the possibility to have this blended, let me say, learning. So on March 24th, the Ministry of Education issued the new regulation, and on March 26th, the Ministry of Science and Higher Education issued the, let me say, special recommendation regarding education conducting at the universities, because universities are treated as autonomous institutions. It means that they can have their own regulations. And accordingly to the Ministry of Education, what we noticed, that the government decided, and it is a huge responsibility, that many school principals are responsible for organizing distance education. However, they don't work in isolation. They should work together with teachers, pupils, with the, let me say, the environment surrounding the schools. And when organizing distance education for pupils, school principals must take into account, first of all, the medical recommendation regarding the time of using the devices, computer, TV, telephone. We should know that Poland as a country is quite developed country as far as the access to internet is concerned and the devices that people they have. So it was easier for us to switch to this distance education. However, we were thinking about this medical recommendation because we know that our children in their free time, usually they have the tendencies to work with these electronic devices instead of, let me say, to go outdoor. And teachers, it was a very challenging time for them because from, let me say, from one day to another day, they have to work on the curriculum and they have to adapt the curriculum to the learning approach. And we notice a massive accumulation of the energy. And I think that we need the research on networking because it's one of the achievements of this time. Teachers started to share their materials. They started to really cooperate together in order to help children to have the right education. And regarding the government, from formal point of view, what have been done? In Poland, we have this integrated educational platform, so it was easier for us to adjust to the new, let me say, situation. And at this platform, every teacher, every student has the access to free electronic textbook and didactic materials. However, in the past, they were, this platform was not so used by teachers because they didn't see the need for this. And nowadays it was a kind of the solution how to solve the challenging time. And in this platform also it is interesting that teachers, they can put their own materials and they can share their experiences regarding the lessons. And the completely new situation was, like our colleague from China said, that in Poland, especially for those children who has the problem with the access to internet, government introduced the public television and Polish radio the special programs. And it was really interesting how the government tried to engage teachers to work on the lessons. And from time to time, I also tried to watch these lessons, and it was quite interesting experience. And when we think about the now the digital world, mainly we think about the internet, what can happen, but also we should think about this, let me say, the first invention, like the television and the radio, that it might help in crisis. And also the new website was introduced, and the website, it is called Educational Lessons. It is quite new. in Poland because Polish teachers, they're autonomous regarding the scenario of lessons. They conduct the lessons with using the methods that they really would like to have. They don't have any prescribed scenarios. However, governments decided that in order to help the teachers, because they were very overworked and it was very time consuming for them, that some topics of the lessons for each day and each, let me say, classes will be designed, and teachers, if they would like to use, it was up to them to take advantage of this website. So I think it was a huge achievement as well. And as I mentioned, this integrated educational platform was discovered again by the teachers, because they noticed that they can have the possibility to create the virtual classroom. They can make, they can put the materials, check the student progress. So the corona crisis, let me say, show us from one hand the possibility of education we have within our system. On the other hand, it showed us the challenges. I will say a little bit about this later. And one of the challenges, it is this infrastructural issue, because in European Union, one of the, let me say, country that it is the best regarded when we take into account the digital education and access to internet, it is Estonia and Finland as well. However, Estonia has one of the first position. And we notice that even though we are very well developed, still there is some issue. And there is the issue that Uri, as a president of Athena Fund, work on, issue connected also with the devices. So we notice that we have to provide mainly our children with the devices. They didn't provide teachers, unfortunately, with the devices. However, as you see, April 1st, the government introduced the project Remote Schools, support of the National Educational Network in distance learning, and it devoted approximately 44 million euro in order to give this money to the local governments, and the main purpose was to buy these devices for children in order to really have for them the education, because we noticed that some children, especially from the disadvantaged areas and where the parental aspiration for education is very low, they were beyond education. What we noticed that even though we have a lot of these opportunities, teachers, they haven't used them properly, and we need to offer them the special training. So it was introduced, we call this the Lesson Enter, the special project. It is voluntary. Every teacher, and no matter what is the experience of teacher, can enroll this course and can develop his or her digital competences. So also it was very useful for our teachers. And as I mentioned, I would like to draw some lessons from the situation in which we have to face up with. And I prepare, let me say, 5 lessons, 5 conclusions. And the first lesson is about this, that we need to have the long view when we think about education, because this corona crisis show us explicitly that we can use different digital tools, materials, platforms, everything is needed. However, we need to put the question, what kind of teacher we need to have, and what teachers they should be able to do, and what kind of tools they need to use. And for sure, what we notice from our research, because soon we will publish the findings, that even though we have a lot of these new solutions, students really miss the school, because the school is about the relationship, about gathering together, and the school perform a lot of different roles. It's not only the role about the transforming the knowledge, but it is a role about socialization, about building relationship, but as I mentioned, collegiality. And students would like to have this. They would like to have the teacher who play the role model. So, Lesson 2 is about the training that school staff really needs digital skill training. And what we notice that mostly teachers and students are active online. However, mainly our teachers, they have not taught in online mode before the corona crisis. So it is a very good time for us to examine how the distance education can work, and it is exceptionally time we have. Some of teachers, they said, of course, those that were far away from the medical problems, that they're happy about the time because it is exceptional time for training. So also we noticed some teachers that they were not engaged in this distance education, and we should try to think about them because they work on the quality of education. In European Union and in Poland as well, when we think about the teacher education and helping teacher to work better, we have this lifelong perspective. It means that we preparing teacher to the work, we don't only think about the initial teacher education. Very important, it is induction, the time when teachers, they started their work, and continuous professional development. And these two stages are, let me say, can help teacher to face up with different challenges, because nowadays we have the corona crisis, but we don't know what can happen in the future. Lesson 4, it's about the systemic approach. So whatever we would like to offer to education, we should have this systemic approach. We should think about the teachers, about the education. The teachers should be professionally qualified, motivated, supported within the resource system. So it goes to Poland, but also it refers to every country in the world, and it was specified in Incheon Declaration 2015. And proper resources, tools, and infrastructure that we were discussed today during our conference from the morning is important. And it's important to think about the future digital school with different kinds of learning. I already mentioned about the difference between this hybrid and the blended learning. So I think that the systemic approach to education is also one of the priority for us. So it means that we shouldn't look only from very narrow perspective, but we should see the horizon if we would like to reform the education. And the lesson 5, it's about the synergy. I think that what Athena Funds do for the education, it is exceptionally because it is the example how we can work, what we can do between the policy, research, and practice. And it is the priority for the future of education, because we should build the capacity for the education if we would like to change the education. And at the end, I would like to pose 3 questions that can direct our discussion. So the question is regarding this corona crisis, what does it mean to teach nowadays? What does it mean to learn nowadays? And not only for today, but also for distance tomorrow. What we would like to need, what would we need to teach, and how to prepare our young people, and what defines or should define teaching and learning in the 21st century. So now I thank you for your attention. I try that I keep the time, and I open for the discussion.
Joanna, thank you very much. We really appreciate your presentation. Thank you for teaching us what's happening in Poland.
No, it was the very short, as you know.
I look forward to our cooperation. Thank you so much.